We're going to be live in 12 minutes. Live Q&A with Master Tony Kook. He is a really cool guy and really successful. He has over 4 locations in Vancouver and sold a bunch as well. And has over 1,200 students, and he's going to share some of his tips and tricks and how he is going to and how he became successful, and some of the stuff that you can avoid and some of the stuff that you can double down on. Master Tony Kook, are you there? I know we're a little bit early. We're just starting a little bit early just to kind of warm up. You know, before we spar, you got to warm up a little bit, limber up the the old knees. All right. All right, great. I know we're a little bit ahead of time. That's a good thing because that will get people get them to kind of start coalescing until the main content starts. So we can just, as they say, just shoot the breeze for about 10 minutes.
Absolutely. Let's get started.
Let me move this little back up here. Anyways, we got about 10 minutes until the official thing starts. But how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm doing good. It's Friday here in Toronto. We had another snowfall, and I don't know if you can kind of see. I'll kind of tilt it a little bit there.
Oh my goodness!
A little bit of snow on the trees, and today was also a PA day, so which is good. A PA day means that kids don't go to school, and so there's no people on the roads.
Yeah, that's nice. It's a good day for shopping. It's raining here in Vancouver. It's not too bad. It's going to ease up this afternoon. I was hoping to get some training done this afternoon. We got a busy weekend of testing, and
testing time.
Yeah, we have our black belt testing, our color belt testing. We do an annual fundraiser every year for our local hospital.
Oh, nice.
So that's always a huge success because that breeds a lot of support from the community.
Right.
And you know, that in turn helps us as an academy. We get a lot of brand new students in January as a result of that. So,
right.
You know, we'll talk about some of those strategies later on.
Yeah.
But I was also hoping to have a couple of hours window here to go get some golf in because we got the Hero Challenge going on right now. Tiger's making another run.
What's the Hero Challenge? What's that?
Oh, it's a PGA Tour event. I think
okay.
Tiger's 4th or 5th right now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, try to be the all-time leader in rings.
See, everybody, when you can become as successful as Master Tony Kook, you
become a white belt in golf. That's
yeah, white belt in golf, and you can golf whenever you want. But you, what belt color are you in jiu-jitsu?
Oh, I'm actually a black belt in jiu-jitsu as well. I just got that last year. Ever since I retired, you know, like yourself, Ali. Ever since you retire from Taekwondo competition, you know, that kind of, as Rocky Balboa says, you know, that stuff in the basement, right? You know, you still kind of have that desire to be competitive. So jiu-jitsu was a great avenue to kind of release all that excess energy and things like that. And it's quite a bit different, you know, the Taekwondo, a lot of striking. Jiu-jitsu is a lot of grappling.
Right.
And actually a lot of my great Taekwondo friends, you know, Kevin Yang and Philip Chen and Ryan Watkins and a lot of my good Taekwondo friends that were all former national team members, they are all now into jiu-jitsu as well as an outlet for training and competition.
And what I found interesting now that as a retired athlete, and for people just wondering why I'm looking down, I have a phone here as well. I have some of the questions and then also replying to some of your comments that come in. So don't think I'm not paying attention. One of the things that what's interesting as a striking art, you know, Taekwondo obviously being all striking, how much we don't know about the ground, you know.
Yeah.
And I think maybe part of what that desire to do, I think a lot of the ground style arts is filling in that void, you know. I think that's something that definitely interests me. I just did a post last night on some self-defense techniques for not common situations, but like street kind of situations, like maybe at a bar or something like that. And I always find that stuff intriguing,
Yeah.
what you can do to protect yourself and everything.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I've taught a lot of self-defense courses and women's self-defense courses, and at the end of the day, when it comes to self-defense, your primary objective, your goal is self-preservation. It's being safe, right? I like to say, when you see a fire, you're not going to go run and jump in that fire,
right?
I mean, unless you have something incredibly valuable to you that you got to go and do that.
Right.
The same thing in fighting. You should only be fighting if you need to fight back. Right. I mean, there's certain instances where you need to fight back, right, just to give you that 1 second or 2 second window to run away. So I always like to say the best form of self-defense is not striking, it's not grappling, it's called run fu.
Right.
If you can avoid it, right?
I can't believe I've never heard that before.
Yeah, if you can avoid it, you've accomplished the goal. Right. I think it's harder for men because, right, as guys, you gave that example at a bar, right? It's an ego thing. But let's turn that around. Let's say you're with your wife and your kids in an alley, right? You're going to do whatever you can just to get them safe. Your ego has nothing to do with it. Right. So, yeah, I mean, Taekwondo obviously has its incredible advantages, as does any other discipline like jiu-jitsu. But at the end of the day, when it comes to self-defense, you just have to remember what the goal and the objective is. Right. That's to be safe.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes those goals and objectives are obviously a little bit blurred with the alcohol running through your system. Let me just close the door here. It's a little bit noisy here. 1 second.
Okay.
All right, so we got a few more minutes before we got about 5 more minutes, everybody. My name is Master Ali Ghafoor, CEO of 2020 Armor, and got Master Tony Kook here. And we got a live session starting in 5 minutes at 1 o'clock Eastern time about some common mistakes that people make during recruitment and other strategies that we can do for the year 2020. And you'll notice I always say the year 2020 because obviously 2020 Armor. We can get confused sometimes if we're talking about the company of the year. So I'll say the year 2020. But before that, me and Master Kook were just talking about just some fun things. For those of you that don't know, me and Master Tony Kook go back a while. Master Kook is based in Vancouver, so he's Canadian as well. And he was on the Canadian national Taekwondo team, and so was I. So we never competed. I was much more faster and nimbler than him. He was a little bit heavier. We always say, like, if we'd fight, he'd always be very gracious and humble and let me know that I would win. So he's a very, very humble guy. He's very competitive, actually. He would never say that. But we used to compete and had that competitive streak. And after we retired, he went into the business of martial arts. And, a lot of competitors, when they go into business, they typically don't do as well because they teach pure competition only. And as we know, that does not work for a majority of the people who practice martial arts. Some will want to be competitive, but majority do not. So he was able to crack that formula, and we'll hear some of those tips and tactics as well. But also has a family, 2 children, was board member of Taekwondo Canada, and very involved at a governance level as well. A lot of charities, we'll talk about that as well. And so yeah, it's a lot of great content. He's a great speaker. You'll also be speaking at the Taekwondo Professionals event in April in Texas. That's Master Merton's event, and so we'll post a link to that as well. And maybe Michael's our head of marketing. If you could post this live video to Master Merton's page, because I think the content here will be relevant to his audience, and also to the ASA group page, because those guys would love to hear what Master Tony Kook has to say. So we've got a couple more minutes. So for those people that are kind of in queue here, waiting, please have your questions ready. We will have a section where we will answer your questions. So don't be afraid. And no question is stupid. Everybody learns for the first time. Not everyone has the answers for the first time. And we're all martial artists, and we're all white belts at one point as well. So do not feel awkward or weird about any questions you might have. So we got a couple more minutes. Master Cook, anything you wanted to say before we start in a couple minutes?
Yeah, you mentioned that the Taekwondo Professionals event coming up in April. If you guys, any club owners listening right now, if you've never been to a trade show, whether it's the MAIA Super Show in Las Vegas every summer, which 2020 Armor is a proud sponsor of, or the ASA event, this Taekwondo Professionals event is specifically designed for Taekwondo club owners, hosted by World Class Taekwondo and Master Michael Mertens. Be sure to attend. It's going to be an incredible event where you can attend. You can meet like-minded individuals, get some ideas for your club. Just make some great connections and get yourself remotivated for your students. 2020 Armor, I understand, will be a sponsor for that event as well.
Yeah,
so that's in April. I believe that's the last weekend of April in Texas. I'll be speaking at that event as well. My topic will be small school strategies for explosive growth. Love to see you guys there. I think that's going to be a great event.
Yeah, definitely will. Master Mertens always hosts top-notch events. He's very he's very organized, and he has a high degree. He takes it very personal to make sure things are done really well and organized and finished on time and high quality. I've had the pleasure of knowing him for a couple of years, and so you won't be disappointed with the content. And he tries to keep it fresh every year. So if you've been the year before, you'll see new people, you'll hear new things. Yeah, great. So it's officially 1 o'clock. So we will officially get started. For those people that see that we've been up for about 12 minutes, we were just kind of just making sure the technology was working, and we were just catching up. Me and Master Tony Kook have known each other for quite a while, and so I guess I'll start with that. My name is Master Ali Ghafoor, CEO of 2020 Armor, and with me I have Master Tony Kook, who is owner of 4 very successful Taekwondo schools in Vancouver with over 1,200 students. And that's not including the schools that he has sold. And I believe you also just recently opened up a jiu-jitsu school as well.
Full-time jiu-jitsu academy as well.
Crazy, yeah. So not only is he successful in the Taekwondo world, he decided, well, let's just apply that model to another martial arts. So that'll be interesting. So for those maybe who have questions specifically around that, you can ask that. So today, so we've known each other for a long time. Master Tony Kook was also a competitor for Team Canada. So was I. That's my background. And we were on the board of Taekwondo Canada together as well. And so we've known each other for over 15 years, maybe 20 years now. So Master Kook has quite a lot of experience from the competition side. He obviously was a player, and even is continually doing it now. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. And so he's got the competition side, was able to figure out how to convert that into the business and have these successful schools, but at the same time really help his students, who some of them bought out his schools and really kind of figured out that strategy on making a successful business, but also making other people successful. And then also he's been working on the governance side, like I said, as a VP of Taekwondo Canada previously, and a host of other charities and stuff that he has started and helped build. But today's topics are going to be around common mistakes that we see in the Taekwondo industry, and how to avoid them. Because sometimes it's like when someone says, when you do this, that's wrong. It's like, oh yeah, I do that, and I should do that way. When you kind of call it out, that kind of elicits change a lot more. So Master Tony Kook has a lot of experience around that, so he will share some of that. And And again, I mentioned before the official time that we went live is have your questions ready. Don't be afraid of any questions. There's nothing silly. We're not going to make fun of you. So please have them ready and ask at any time. You don't have to wait for us to pose those questions. So with that, I've done a lot of the talking for the first few minutes. Master Cook, did you want to kind of say a few things before we get into the first set of topics?
Yeah, Ali, as you alluded to earlier, you were a high-level competitor. I know you were a multiple-time national champion. I was on Team Canada for a couple of years as well. And I think there's a lot of listeners that in some capacity used to compete, whether it was locally or nationally or maybe even internationally. And one of the things that I heard about 10 years ago, right, as I was getting started and getting serious about my Taekwondo business, is that any business, whether it's martial arts business or the restaurant business, it's the ultimate life competition. And that really stuck with me, because when you think about a Taekwondo competition, it's 3 rounds. And if you're doing a specific kick that is working, you're going to keep doing it. But if you're doing something that isn't giving you good results, you go back to your corner, your coach is going to tell you, stop doing this, I want you to do this.
Right.
And when that works, you're going to keep doing it. And so now the parallel with that in martial arts business is, as former competitors, we are still competitors in Taekwondo business. We need to honestly assess what is working for us. And that requires a big degree of honesty.
Yeah.
And many times it's incredibly humbling. You got to know what your strengths are, but I think more importantly, you got to know what your weaknesses are.
Right.
When people say they're not signing up students, I mean, we got to be specific with what that weakness is. Are you just not getting people calling you? Are you not getting leads? Or are you getting those leads, but you're just not closing the sale?
Right.
So I think starting from the general to the specific, having an open mind, being really humble when it comes to learning, because at the end of the day, it's your business. I mean, you're doing this because you love it. You want to benefit the people in your community around you, but at the same time, you need to make a living. Because if you make a good living, you can provide a better service to your staff and your students. So, I thought I'd just start with that. Owning a martial arts club it's like the ultimate competition. It's a lifelong competition.
Yeah, and very very good points. And going back to that competition analogy, whether you competed or not, the analogies make perfect sense. You would never compete without a coach in your corner. It just doesn't make sense, right? And a lot of people don't realize that having a coach in your business is also maybe a good thing. And the coach doesn't have to be there every single day, but it could be going to events, listening to webinars like this, having somebody that you call that has already done it, is successful, and get their advice. Don't be shy about I have a coach myself as an executive for my company, right? Even though I've done it before, there's always things that you don't know. So exactly, have an open mind, seek that knowledge, ask those questions. There is no dumb question other than the ones that you don't ask. And then some of the events that we were talking about that can help with that, we mentioned the Taekwondo Professionals one in April, which is a good one to go to for Taekwondo schools specifically. They cover a lot of common challenges, and again, it's any martial arts school faces similar challenges, but I think Taekwondo people kind of like to talk Taekwondo to other folks and just also share that culture. Another one that's a good one is ASA, American Stubborn Association, that happens around the October timeline in Vegas. It's been in the past couple of years. The Taekwondo Professional one will be in April in Texas. So I encourage you guys to seek those out and talk to people. Again, even if you just go there and you literally make one contact with somebody that can help your school and you have one strategy, those things are worth it, right? So again, as Master Cook was saying, be open to these things and try it out. So with that, we'll go into the first kind of topic that we're talking about. And Yes, that's right, Master Ryan. Having a mentor will definitely save you time, aggravation, and especially money. Yeah, and you don't know until you know, until you've experienced, right? When someone just tells you that one piece of advice that just saves your life. So we'll get into the first set of business kind of related questions, and that is about the common mistakes that people make when recruiting students, and why some of those efforts fail. And so for those people wondering why I'm looking down, I'm not avoiding you or scared of looking at you. I have my phone here and my notes are here. It's sometimes easier to do this than to switch back and forth from my computer tab. So I do apologize for that. So Master Cook, in your experience, and again, you again, for people who didn't hear the first 10 minutes before we went live, you have your own schools, but you've also sold some of your schools to your students. So maybe you've also seen some of your students maybe make some of these mistakes. And obviously, I'm sure you've made these mistakes when you first started. What are some of the common ones that you've seen when people recruit students and why they fail?
I think the biggest mistake that I see, and it's very easy to do, and a lot of people do this without even realizing, is that a lot of club owners will simply sit back and just passively hope that students are just going to walk in their door. What you have to be doing is you have to make a monthly goal and a weekly goal of how many students or how many leads you want walking in your door. And in order to do this, you have to be accurately tracking your stats. Now, I know a lot of people have heard this, and sometimes it'll just go in one ear and out the other. But when I've helped a lot of club owners go from that 100 to 200 or 2 to 300, I always start with this. I always ask them, tell me specifically last week, how many inquiries did you get? How many inquiries did you get last month? And my next question to that is, out of those inquiries, how many did you successfully book an appointment for them to come in your door? That's what we call an intro. Maybe you have a 2-class intro, a 2-week intro, whatever your special is. And then finally, of those people that came in for that 2-class intro, 1-class intro, 2-week special, whatever it is, how many of them actually signed up? And only by answering these questions honestly will you be able to successfully recruit new students. So let me give you an example. I've met club owners that just simply say, I don't know how many inquiries I had last week, or I think it was around 5, or I think it was around 10. So that's the first thing you need to address. Just get a piece of paper, put it beside your phone or your computer, leave it with one of your assistant instructors or whoever's working the phones, whether it be yourself or an assistant. And every single time you get someone call, email, or walk in the door, you need to mark that down as what we call a lead or an inquiry.
And I think, and so I want to interject quickly there. It's important there. What you just suggested is you don't have to have a complicated system to begin with, because some people think, oh, maybe I need this whole new system and I have to learn that. Like you said, just start with a piece of paper and a pencil.
Yeah. For the past 10 years, we've got my program director has a piece of paper. She has it on a clipboard, and at the end of the week, she sends me a report. This is how many inquiries we had this week. This is how many intros that were booked. These are how many enrollments we had signed up. So I just want to give a quick example. If let's say in a typical week, you get 5 inquiries, and out of those 5 inquiries, you get 4 of them come in through your door to do that introductory class.
Right.
And out of those 4, let's say 3 of them sign up. Well, that was a pretty good week for you. But let's take that same example. Maybe you had 5 inquiries, but you only had about 2 of them take advantage of your special. Well, now you're only batting 40%.
Right.
So you got to ask yourself, do I have to change the way I answer the phone? Do I have to change my recruitment strategy? And let's say those 2 people come in the door, but out of those 2 people, they sign up. Well, your enrollment process is great, or maybe your class is great. So what you need to do is you just need to make sure more people are coming in for that introductory class or that 2-week special or whatever you have.
Right.
So again, it's only by looking at those numbers can you specifically identify what your weaknesses are and then work to improve those numbers.
Right. Right. And I think it was, I don't know if it was Google officially that said it, but it's definitely something that stuck with my mind. What gets measured gets improved.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Yeah. So great insight there. Just start with a piece of paper and a pencil, and just start writing things down. And just remember that mantra: what gets measured gets improved. Whatever you measure will get improved. If you want your leads to improve, if you want your walk-ins to improve, just measure it. Because once you see on a piece of paper like it is going up or down or nothing, then you will elicit change. You will do something about it. And just the fact that it's in front of your face will also elicit some sort of change as well.
Yeah, and another great thing about those stats, Master Gafour, I've been keeping track of stats for the past 10 years. So what I can do now that we're going to January of 2020, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out my stats from January of 2019. And let's say, I see in 2019 we had 35 inquiries and we had 23 signups. Then that's a great benchmark to measure for next month. Right. And I might go back the previous year and see that previous year I had, say, 48 inquiries. Right. Well, there's a difference there of 10. So why was that difference? And again, you can start creating a strategy to make sure that you increase those numbers. And then it also works for your slower months. Typically we all kind of struggle a bit in the summer because people go away. Enrollments are a little bit down for some clubs. So look at your stats. It might very well be that you're still getting 20, 30 inquiries for the month of July, but you're only getting 5 signups. Right. Well, that tells you that you've got to do something to improve your enrollment process. Or maybe you don't have any inquiries in July. Maybe that tells you that you need to plan ahead and set aside a certain budget so that you can do some external marketing and internal marketing for those summer months to prepare. So the stats, like what you're measuring, isn't just for the present, it's for the future as well, for your planning. Right.
Yeah. And coming from my background, obviously from the 2020 Emmer background, we do the same thing. Like these principles apply to all businesses, regardless of your selling martial art instruction or creating electronic vests. When we started to measure, sales per week, per day, and we saw the trends and stuff, you could now start making strategic decisions as opposed to just kind of letting things happen. So again, very, very important, regardless of the type of business. And then so segueing onto that is, what are the costs of finding new students from your experience?
Okay, that's a great question. But I think the question here more specifically is what is the cost per lead?
Right. So cost per lead, yeah, is what I was trying to get at. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let me give you a simple example. Let's say you spend $200 on a local ad in your community newspaper, and as a result of that ad directly, you get 5 people that email you or 5 people that call you or whatever. The cost per lead in this specific example is $40. You spend $200, you have 5 leads, that costs you $40. A little expensive, but better than nothing, right? So the question is how many of those 5 leads can you actually convert into students? Right. If you have 5 leads that email you and you don't respond, or you email them and they don't respond, or if you have 5 leads that call you and for some reason you can't get them to walk in your door, well, then that's just money lost. So you need to calculate and track how much money you've invested, and you need to divide that by the number of new leads that you get. So I'll give you another example. Let's say you spend $200 on a Facebook ad, right? And as a result of that Facebook ad, you get 10 new leads. Well, now that only costs you $20 per lead. Right. That's a lot better than $40. Right. So, in this specific example, digital marketing is the way to go. And, digital marketing seems to be the trend. But having said that, I've actually met club owners where they've signed up 15 new students from a $200 ad in their local community newspaper because they were promoting some big special.
Right.
You know, if that's your demographic and that's working for you, then keep doing it.
Right.
You need to see what works for you. But I guess my answer to your question is you need to calculate how much money you're spending divided by the number of leads that you're getting. You know, that's external marketing. In my opinion, there's a lot of internal marketing strategies that club owners can use that will cost them very little, or it's free, and it's a lot more effective. But what I was explaining just now was the cost per lead for external marketing.
Right. Right. So that's external marketing. So again, that goes back to what you were saying at the beginning, is first write down how many leads you're getting so you know what that number is, and then divide that by what you're actually spending on whatever that strategy that would, and I guess you're suggesting to try a bunch and see what works. And you don't have to spend a lot on Facebook marketing or a local newspaper or what have you. Just kind of see each area would be different, right? For you, what works for you in your area?
You know, I have 4 clubs in 4 different cities here in the Lower Mainland. We're all quite close to one another. At 2 of my clubs, I focus primarily on Google Ads and Facebook.
Okay.
At our jiu-jitsu studio, where we have a lot more adults, we've been focusing a lot more on Instagram. You know, we're kind of marketing towards the millennials. Mm-hmm. I personally don't know how to use Instagram, but I get my staff to do it. And at my other club, I don't do any external marketing. It's all internal strategies that we've been using, because it's a very niche market. It's a very kind of upper class area, and we rely heavily on referrals for that. Right. So yeah, we use all sorts of marketing strategies. But the important thing is that every week I get a report from my staff, and every week we come together for our meetings. We go over those stats, you know, what was working, what wasn't working. We identify the weaknesses. Right, right.
I know you guys might not be able to read this, and it's covered by my head at some points. That's okay. I'll kind of refer back to them as we go throughout the webinar, just so people can remember, because what gets repeated gets remembered, and what gets written down gets remembered. And so that's what I'm doing back there. And I know we got a few questions already, and we will get to them. And I know a lot of the questions typically revolve around staff matters, which is some of the questions we've already gotten, and you kind of brought that up, and we will discuss that. But to summarize what Master Kook has said in terms of how to get leads and the cost and all that. So again, first, measure how many leads you get. What gets measured gets approved. Then measure how much you actually spend on leads. So whether that's Facebook advertising, newspapers, and each of your locations will be completely different. Master Kook has 4 locations in Vancouver, and each of those locations have a different marketing strategy. So just try it out. It's not going to cost you that much. You're not going to spend tens of thousands of dollars to figure this out. You just have to try. So that's the tip there. On with the topic of leads and attracting students. The question I have here is, what are the top methods for attracting new students with your school that you do right now? So when we talked about the advertising and the referrals, what are some other ways?
Well, you know what? Without a doubt, the number one method, it's always been, and I think it always will be, for attracting new members to your club, it's going to be through referrals.
And then, how do you? What kind of referrals? So most of them are credit-based, right?
Yeah, you know, if I were to sit here and brag about, how great my Taekwondo academies are, it comes off as bragging. But when you have a parent talk to another parent, say, oh, this ABC martial arts is amazing, you got to go there, wait till you see the changes, then right, that comes off as being the truth. So the key is to find ways to have your current student base generate those referrals for you. So how do you do that? Number one, it seems so obvious, but a lot of people just don't do it. You ask them.
Just ask them.
Send out a notice post it up at your club, or put it on your Facebook page, or just write a Christmas card to every single student and just say, listen, the highest honor that you could give our academy is the referral of your friends or family. You know, we're very passionate about what we do and benefiting our community, and we would love to share the gift of martial arts to the people that are important to you. So, you know, that's an easy way. Maybe you have a test, and at the end of the test, you thank all the parents, congratulate all the students, say, I'm so proud of you. And to all of the parents, I am so incredibly thankful and grateful for your support of our academy. We will continue to do our very best to make sure that we're doing everything for your children. And if you have any friends or family that you think will benefit from martial arts, it would be, you know, our great honor. It would be our great privilege to help them. And we would be incredibly thankful for your support. So when you say that, and when you ask your students and parents, you'd be surprised. You know, I think the important thing is that you say it with sincerity. You say it with grace, and you let them know that, you know, you're trying to grow your school. You're trying to benefit the community. You're trying to make it a win-win situation for everybody.
Right.
So I think that's one way. You know, another way that you can do it is just simply let everyone know at your club. Listen, we would be honored if you referred a friend or a family to our academy. And in doing so, if any of them sign up, we would love to just give you a small gift as a token of our appreciation.
Right.
Now, it doesn't have to be an extravagant gift. You don't even have to tell them what the gift is. It could be a $10, $20 Starbucks gift card with a thank you note. It could be a free uniform. It could be a free test. You know, Mrs. Jones, I understand that you referred Chelsea to our academy. I want to let you know how incredibly grateful we are because of that, because it shows us that you have faith and trust in our academy. So as a token of appreciation, I know that your daughter has a belt test coming up. It's normally $80, but you know, this one's on us just as a thank you. You know, little gestures like that really go a long way. You don't necessarily have to give a free month. You know, a lot of clubs go out and they market that. They say, hey, refer a friend and we'll give you a free month of training.
Right.
Nothing wrong with that. But these little gestures don't have to go that far.
Right.
It can just be a sincere card with a thank you note. I think the important thing is that you have to be consistent with it. If that mother sends another person, send them another thank you note, you know, send them another gift, do something else for them. You know, people will never admit it, but people like to be recognized, you know, especially supportive parents that are supportive of your culture. And you know what? I think all of us that are listening here, we all have that one or two parent, you know, that parent that we can always count on. Right. We all have that mother or father that we know is spreading the gospel about your club. You know, make sure you recognize those people and their efforts, and everyone else. And, you know, positivity breeds positivity in an encouragement environment. And you'd be surprised. You'll get a lot of referrals coming in through that door when you recognize those people.
Right. And we tend to forget sometimes as martial artists, because we're in the business so often, that true value that we bring. And we know we're able, and maybe we don't forget it, or maybe we forget or don't remember that the parents don't understand it the way we understand it. So even just telling them and framing those words and telling them what the benefit of martial arts is, oh yeah, that's right. This is what I'm doing for my kid. And then they can retell that to other people, because they can't talk to it the way we can talk about it, because we do it all the time. We really know the value, and providing them that framework, because they might have heard that talk when they first joined, right? But after that, they've never probably heard those same values again. They experience it obviously because their kids are going through it, but they don't have that vocabulary to retell other people. So by the way, Michael Kimber, who you're seeing writing some of these notes here, he's writing down some of these strategies in the comments. So for those people who are coming a little bit late, they're there in the comments, and then you guys can refer to them afterwards. For those that are joining in now, I have with me Master Tony Kook, owner of 4 schools and over 1,200 students. And we're talking about strategies, common mistakes that people make, and how to avoid them, and what Master Cook has done to get the success that he has had with his schools. And we talked about some of the ways to attract students, and again, some of the strategies that are there in the comments. And obviously, this video will save afterwards, so you can replay it for your own convenience as well.
So we were talking about referrals. Now, when it comes to external marketing, I think a big question a lot of people have in their head is budgeting. You know, how much are you supposed to be setting aside each month? And, you know, the industry standard is 4%. So, for example,
4%,
let's say let's say your club is grossing $10,000 a month. So let's say you have 100 students and you're charging them $100 a month. That's roughly 10,000, give or take. If you were to set aside 4% of that, then that's $400. And that's just for external marketing. You're going to continue with your internal marketing strategies, of course. So you dedicate $400 to some sort of monthly digital campaign, whether it be Facebook or Google AdWords or some combination of those two. And then again, I can't stress this enough. Once you dedicate that 400, you need to accurately track how many leads and how many signups you're getting as a result of that $400. So if you put $400 campaign toward, let's say, Google AdWords, and you get 8 leads because of that, that's $50 per lead. A little expensive, but again, better than nothing. But then as a result of those 8 leads, you're getting 6 signups. Hey, that's a job well done. So yeah, you know, if you're in a better position where you're grossing more than 10,000, let's say you're doing 20,000 a month, then I would highly urge you to consider putting aside $800. I know that sounds like a lot of money because that's money comes straight out of your pocket, but for the long-term growth of your school, that's what needs to be done. You know, 4% is a good benchmark to set aside for external marketing.
Right. Okay. Great. On that topic of referrals and leads. Oh, by the way, for everybody on this live webinar, we do have a sale for the 2020 armor going on right now, or sorry, a special. If you go to the website, that'll be there. Usually it's $525 for 8 or more, but we're doing that as a flat, no matter how many units you get. And speaking about referrals, Master Tony Kook, you know about this, that we've developed this concept. Is you know, we've talked about how the ways people typically do, and the number one is you for leads is asking your students to just asking your students to tell other people about it. One of the challenges we found that other clubs find with that is exhaustion. Is you have to keep on asking. So one of the things that we developed with the vest is this ability to record yourself in a match. As if you're playing a video game. So you point your phone, I'll show you guys. You point your phone against the vest, and in real time it shows their score, and you can kind of see it here. And then in real time it shows their score and then how they're actually practicing and what's going on. And the reason, and then on the bottom is your club website. And the reason why we feel that this will be really good for lead generation is because you don't have to ask anymore. They will want to show that to literally every single buddy that will watch that. Their parents will want to share that with their family. And that will be a great organic, free lead generation tool that you'll have access to. So that's coming out on January 20th, 2020, just so you guys know. And we think that will be a fantastic way for you guys to generate new students and leads for your school.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's, you know, we're reaching out to the second generation of Street Fighters. You know, we're the first generation of Tekken and Street Fighter. You know, that whole video game craze.
Right.
Right. But you can gamify anything, and you know, kids look at that and they say, "Wow, that's fun." You know, I want to do that.
Yeah.
While they're doing it, they're getting great physical shape. They're improving their motor skills, and we're teaching them amazing life skills while they're having fun. I mean, it's a win-win situation. So that looks exciting.
Yeah, and the other exciting part is that the student gets to visually show what they're doing to other people, because the parent might be able to convey, to other parents through words, but the student won't necessarily be able to. Remember, the average age is 7 to 13, right? They don't have that vocabulary skill. But if you show them, and then the other kid sees like, oh my God, I want to do that. So we think that will be a game changer, and we're excited to launch that next year. So we think that's how the 2020 Armor can really supercharge your recruitment effort. Going on to, I'm looking at the questions here on my phone here for those wondering what's going on. I think that's a lot of stuff we talked about, attracting new students. Anything else before we go to retention, Master Cook?
Yeah, a lot of club owners have asked me questions about the actual enrollment process. So, they ask, what do you do? Like, what kind of special do you do? Do you do like a 2-week special? Do you do a 1 month free? And you know what? Over the years, I've tried all of that. I've tried, I think, every single promotional offer you can think of. I've done contracts. I've done known contracts. But in my opinion, the single most effective strategy that I've ever used, and I still use to this day,
Drop it on them.
Pardon me?
Drop that knowledge on them. Here it comes.
Oh yeah, here it comes. Is the 1 class free intro strategy. So basically, you're just inviting them in for 1 introductory free class. That's it. And you let the prospective student know that after that introductory class, you'd like to spend a few minutes with them, or your program director or your staff will spend a few minutes with them. And listen to these words. You say, we just want to show you how easy it is to get started with our program. Right. So your choice of words is very important. So the idea is that your students come in, preferably one-on-one. If you can set aside a time where it's one-on-one, and you only need to spend about 15 minutes at most. Most of our intro classes are literally 10 minutes. You bow to them and you say, this is symbolic of respect. And it's incredibly important that you show self-respect and respect to people around you that are important. And then we do some punching and kicking drills, and we say, this is going to improve your confidence. Imagine if you always believed in yourself and everything that you do. Not only are you going to become more confident in Taekwondo, but you're going to be confident at school. You're going to be confident.
This is a private class or
this is their first introductory class. Yeah, if you can do it one-on-one, it's better.
Okay.
And meanwhile, while you're doing all this, you got that parent sitting down beside thinking, oh my goodness, this is amazing. In 10 minutes, you've talked about respect. You've talked about confidence. You're telling the parent that not only are they going to physically get in better shape, but they're going to be learning all these amazing life skills that are going to benefit them in all facets of their life.
Right.
And you thank them for that class, and you say, hey, listen, I would love to see your son get started this week or next week. I'll pass you over to Grace or whoever your instructor, or maybe you do it yourself. Can I just show you how easy it is to get started with our program? And you do the enrollment process. Now, if you don't have time for a one-on-one, just invite them to your regular class and make sure you give them due attention and care. They don't do the whole class. They only do about 15 minutes of the class. And then again, you invite them in and you do the enrollment. It's like when you go to buy a car, the salesman is going to invite you to do a test drive. You might do 2 test drives, but he's never going to say, hey, tell you what, take the car for 2 weeks and let me know what you think, right? Now, your car is a big purchase. Now, imagine how much more easier it should be for something like martial arts that's a lot more valuable and incredibly less expensive.
Yeah.
So that's what I do specifically at all our clubs. And our intro to enrollment rate has always been above 80%. So it's a tried, tested, and true method for our system. And I strongly encourage everyone listening to maybe consider that for your club. See how that works for you.
Yeah, 80% conversion. That's like unheard of. And like you said, you spend 10 minutes and you have to look at the ROI on that, right? Like you spent money to get that lead there. They're highly interested or else they wouldn't spend that time. And for you to just take that 10 minutes to convert them is very, very valuable. I think we shouldn't underestimate the value of that person coming in there and sitting there, because they're essentially it's yours to lose at that point. And judging by your conversion numbers, that's definitely true. And what's the difference between doing it for youth versus adults, the intro class?
Oh, it's exactly the same. You
Really?
know, when you have an adult come in, typically when adults come in, like whether they're older adults or younger adults, they're coming in for basically three main reasons. It's usually to get in shape, release stress, and simply have some fun. So, you know, ask them, hey, you know, for example, let's say Master Kook, you came into my club and I say, hey, Ali, my name is Master Kook. I'm so happy to meet you, and I think you're just going to really love our classes. But is there any benefit in particular that you're hoping to get from our classes? And I listen to you. If you tell me, you know what, I've actually had doctors come into my academy saying, you know, I'm low on confidence. I have problems with public speaking.
Yeah.
The majority of adults we have come in, they say, you know, I need to release some stress, or usually it's I need to get in shape, and I can't go to the gym because that's boring. Then you press those buttons as you're doing the introductory lesson. Okay, this person wants to get in shape. So I'm not going to overdo it, but I'm going to make them feel like they got a really good workout. So I'll do a couple of punching drills. I'll do a couple of knee up drills. I'll do maybe 5 push-ups. I'll show them a couple of stretches. And I say, Ali, you know what? You're looking great. And I make it fun. And when you start to believe, wow, you know, this is, I can do this. I say, Ali, man, I got to tell you, like that was only 15 minutes. I can't wait to see you in class. Wait till you meet everyone else in class. It's all of our students, they say it's like a mini vacation twice a week whenever they come to our academy. I think you're just going to love it. So how about I show you our program? I'll show you how easy it is to get started, and you go from there. So the important thing is that you ask what benefit that they're after, and you explain how your academy is going to help them get those benefits. Yeah.
And for people listening, you know, one of the Master Kook's superpowers, as you probably just witnessed, is just his way with words, right? So I would encourage you to replay this video at those moments and try to replicate that enthusiasm. And I mean, obviously you're genuine too, right? And the specific words that he's using, and because they matter, and the way you say things will make a difference. I encourage you, just try those words. I know it might not seem authentic to you because might not be the way you're naturally taught, but try it and then see the results of it, and then eventually it will become your own language and something that you'll feel completely comfortable with. So just so you guys know, I am reading your questions. I am asking them at the right moment, and I know there are some questions that I haven't gotten to yet. So thank you for all that engagement that we've been getting. Master Kook, you've got quite a lot of fans here. So in terms of, so we talked about some of the best practices and some of the results that you saw for your free trials, and you said it was just the 10-minute one-on-one, or if it's not 10 minutes, if you can't do the one-on-one, then get them to join the class. Have you, I know you've used 2020 Armor in your programs, obviously. What have you done with that in terms of recruitment and how you've seen that kind of change? Because this is a new way of doing recruitment, right? Because there's traditional ways, obviously, and now with this technology, it offers you new ways. Have you seen? What have you tried, and what has worked and what hasn't worked?
You know, that's simple, and the beauty of 2020 Armor is that it can be used in your introductory class. So what we do now is, whenever a new student comes to our class, you know, we talk about whatever benefit they're after. Maybe the parent says that they're lacking in focus, or you know, they're a little shy, and you want them to improve a bit in confidence. We work those things in class. We do some punches, we do some kicks, we make sure they're having fun, and we say, man, you know what? That's an example of focus right there, or that's an example of confidence right there. When you believe in yourself, you can do anything you put your mind to. And then we have the 2020 Armor, and we have it wrapped around on a bob,
right?
And we let them spend literally 1 or 2 minutes on it. Okay, right. You push the 1-game mode. All right, let's see how you can hit it. Bang! Wow, that was so strong. Now imagine with practice, let's say you can get that bar a little higher. And so anytime you gamify something, like I say, kids love it. You know, my kids, they're always on their phone playing some video game or some sort of app. I think adults too. So you can use this in your introductory class, And I've literally had, we've had our program directors do the enrollment conference, and the kids will run in. They say, "Mommy, I want to do this," or "Daddy, I want to do this." When your kids say that, it's hard as a parent not to sign them up.
Right.
You can also use this in your marketing ads. You don't just have to use them in your intro classes, but
Right.
use them in your marketing ads. Like that video clip that you showed on your phone, that's amazing.
Right.
What little boy would not want to do that?
Right.
And girls these days too. But in our kids classes now, half of our students are girls. So I think people love anything that's gamified,
Right.
and I think that'll be great. The biggest benefit that I've seen at art clubs using 2020 Armor is retention. When you're a new student, things are fresh. You're learning a lot. You're progressing up the ranks. Everything is just fun and exciting. But I think we can all agree that a lot of the dropouts come eventually when our students hit a certain intermediate or advanced level. And I know we'll be talking about that a little bit later on here, but I think the main reasons people quit or people stop your class is because they're bored, or they feel like there's a lack of progress, and simply because they're not having fun. So what I've done now in our black belt class, we call it our advanced classes, is we dedicate 15 minutes each class to the 2020 Armor. We have them wrapped on bobs, and we either do the speed challenge or the power challenge, and I tell you, they love it. So they're feeling progress, they're having fun, and your retention improves. So it's a win-win strategy all around. So that's how we've been doing it.
Okay, great. That's a great segue as well. So we talked a lot about attracting strategies. We just talked a little bit about some of the retention, and you talked about how to use the 2020 Armor. So for those people that missed my earlier note, we do have a special on right now. If you go to the site, instead of $600 per unit, they're $525. It's a huge savings. And I'll talk about something special at the end, because we're throwing a lot of stuff at you guys here with the knowledge from Master Cook and everything. I don't want to overload your brains here. One of the questions that were asked, and I think that it can apply to any part of the conversation that we're in now. If you could go back and look at young Master Cook and give him one piece of advice, what would that be?
Oh, you know what? That's easy. And I think it's the same piece of advice that I give to new club owners is, we teach humility in martial arts. So I would say, be humble, keep an open mind, and really focus in on the strategies that work, and be really, really brutally honest, to the point that it might be embarrassing. Be brutally honest with what your weaknesses are. Once you can identify what your weaknesses are, only then can you start looking for good, effective solutions.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I believe that was kind of how we started this talk. Was once you, because the good thing and the bad thing, but when you start writing things down, is things come out. You realize maybe your stuff doesn't really smell like roses after all.
Yeah.
And so it really does become this.
I'll give you one quick example. I remember before I started my first business, one of my mentors said, "Hey, Tony, let me see how you answer the phone. Are you good at answering the phone?" I said, "Yeah, I'm good at answering the phone." He goes, "Okay, ring, ring, answer the phone." And he started drilling me, how much your classes, one of your classes, do you teach karate? What's the difference? Is it safe for women? And you know what? I had to admit to myself at that point, wow, I really don't know how to properly answer the phone.
Right.
And so I dedicated 2 years of how to answer. Now I consider myself one of the best at answering the phone, but that took a lot of practice.
2 years, that's a long time.
Honesty. Yeah,
exactly.
Honesty.
Right.
So,
because it's a simple thing to say, yeah, I can pick up a phone and talk about Taekwondo. I could do that, right?
Yeah.
But not really when you look at the hard questions. And then not only can you answer the question, but it's like, can you answer the question to the point where they come in and sign up?
Absolutely.
That's the real question there.
Yeah.
It's a very good point. Before we jump into retention, I'll ask one more question. Master Mark asked here is what sort of you mentioned the 4% of revenues to go to marketing. What do you do? How do you break it up for rent, salaries, and other expenses? Do you have a percentage there that you allocate for those costs?
Yeah. When I started, my goal was to allocate no more than 8% of my gross revenues to rent. Depending on the city that you live in, or depending on the stage that you are at with your martial arts business. I know that seems unrealistic. I know there's a lot of club where, at this point in time, 50% of their gross revenue is rent, or maybe you're not making a profit yet. Maybe you're just getting started, or you hit a rough patch. But those are certain measures. I think the important thing is, at the end of the day, as club owners, we want to be making enough to sustain the kind of lifestyle you want to be living, but also you want to make sure that you're retaining money in the business each month to help you go through some of those rough patches. So I can tell you that you want to set aside 4% for advertising, 8% for your rent, 20% in salaries. I can throw out random numbers, but that reality might not fit yours right now. I think the important thing is, for those numbers to go up, that you simply just track what those stats are. Sorry, my screen blanked out. Right. Can people see me? Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
My screen just temporarily went blank there. So I think that's very important. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. So time check. It's 1:50. We're supposed to end at 2:30. So we have about 40 minutes. We spent a lot on Attract. Master Tony Kook having tons and tons of experience. We could probably spend the whole seminar here on attracting strategies alone. I do want to get to retention and then new revenue streams. So the way we look at the martial art business, we have these strategies called attract, retain, thrive, and everything that we build as a business, the vests and new products that Apple have coming out next year, and also the headgear, we make sure that it addresses the business aspect of attract, retain, thrive, in addition to how it changes the sport and makes it more fun and all these sort of things. So that's why we're breaking this up, this webinar, into attract, retain, thrive. Now, going into retention, we talked about it a little bit, and you talked about how to use the 2020 armor to keep that retention, because boredom, lack of progress, and not having fun is one of the main reasons people drop out, and especially after they get to, is it green belt or blue belt or beyond? I know your club is probably
probably around blue, red, right before black belt. That's where you're going to tend to see a lot of dropouts.
Right. And so we have to figure out how to kind of, at those moments, first of all, you have to know that those are the moments when they drop out, right?
Yeah,
and when you do know that, then how do you inject certain things at those points to keep them up? So on that, what are some Master Tony Kook tips to raise those retention rates?
Well, I'll tell you the three main reasons why people quit, but then I'll give you a specific example so that people can relate to it. Number one, your students are bored. Maybe your class content is just not what it should be. Number two, students are feeling a lack of progress. Now, I'm not saying turn your club into a belt factory, but if your student hasn't tested for 6 months and has no idea when they should be testing, or maybe their teammates, their classmates are progressing, but they're feeling like they're not learning anything. But I think the main reason is because they're not having fun. Those are the three main reasons. Now, you notice I didn't mention anything about money. I didn't say that people drop out because it's too expensive.
Right.
They say it's too expensive because the big reason is they're not having fun.
Right.
So that's the easy answer.
Yeah, the easy answer. Yeah, exactly. Right.
So a specific example I'll give you is I introduced a Young Tigers introductory class specifically for 3 and 4 year olds, and that's a once a week program. And when we started that program, it exploded. Every single one of those classes got full. We got waiting list for it. But in our weekly meetings, I found out that a lot of our dropouts were coming from that class. And so, I asked my instructor, I said, what's going on? They said, well, because they're only 3 or 4 years old, they're actually not officially testing for about, 8 months to a year. So I said, okay, it's a lack of progress. So what I introduced was a stripe belt system where every 4 weeks, they would get a brand new belt. It's still a white belt, but they just get a white, yellow stripe down the middle, and then a green stripe down the middle, and a blue stripe. And we make a big ceremony out of it, but they're still a white belt. But the point is, at that point, they're starting to feel progress now. The parents pull out their smartphones, they take photos, and we saw our retention improve as a direct result of that. Right. So that's a specific example. You need to find out who's dropping out from which programs. Is it your beginners? Is it your advanced? Is it your adults? Is it your special programs? And then you need to look for solutions and address it from there.
Right. Right. And going back to some of the things that we said at the beginning of this live webinar, I remember for those guys maybe just coming in now, you can replay this video and watch the thing over again. The first thing is to measure. And then once you measure, then you have something you can take to somebody, to anybody, and be like, hey, this is what I'm seeing. What can you suggest to help me fix this, right? Because until you can articulate what the challenge is, then you won't be able to address it. So going back to, again, that first thing, write it down, measure it, and then there you can talk to people, and you can find many ways. You might be like, okay, I'm in a small town, middle of nowhere. Who am I going to talk to? Obviously, this club down the street isn't going to talk to me. Yeah, you're right. Go to seminars. They don't cost that much. We talked a few about the SAW event, American Supplemental Association of Taekwondo Professionals, joining groups like this, the 2020 Armor Group. We talk a lot about strategies about how to grow your school. There's lots of content available out there. You're not alone. You're not by yourself. But the main thing is come with questions, come with challenges. You'd be surprised how helpful other successful club owners are. Because first of all, you're not competing with them, especially if they're in other places. And club owners, if you think about martial artists, they're in the business of helping people with any part of their life. So this is just what we do. We think about it as, okay, we're only helping students, but no, it's anybody that kind of comes to us, we want to help them, right? So again, just kind of looping back in some of the concepts we talked about. Why is providing instant feedback? So we're on the topic of retention. Why is providing instant feedback important for your students?
Yeah, I spoke a little bit about this earlier. I think it's a human need, is that we love recognition. It doesn't have to be big. It could just be a simple thank you, or hey, I noticed your efforts, or I see you're doing a great job. Right. But your students need to be recognized for their efforts in order to feel progress. And when students are feeling progress, they keep coming back to class. Mm-hmm. That's what I love about 2020 Armor, because I have in our adults class, we have a couple of adults there that had never done sports. They're not athletically gifted, so to speak. And when they first started kicking it, they couldn't really generate a lot of power. Now I think that's their favorite part of class. They just want to see if they can kick a little bit harder.
Right.
It's amazing how little things like that are so important. We live in an instant, technologically. I mean, that's our reality now. If we have a question, we pull out our smartphone, Google it, and boom. That's how we're accustomed to living. So Taekwondo, even though it might be sad to say, people sometimes need that instant feedback. Even though we teach patience, people want to know right now how they're doing. Right. And 2020 Armor is just a wonderful way of doing that.
Right. I'm going to turn on the lights back again here. One of the, this is a room that detects motion. That's why it keeps on going on and off. One of the stats I've seen in the industry is when sparring gets introduced, and talking about retention again, when sparring gets introduced, we see a lot of dropouts. And I believe one of the stats I saw was a 55% dropout rate. How do you deal with that? Obviously, us being competitors, you and I both being competitors, I think we have a soft spot for sparring, but also we truly do understand and know the value of sparring as it comes to martial arts. Now, it doesn't have to be, again, high performance, go to Olympics kind of type sparring, but just sparring in itself. how do you instill those values of sparring, and then also keep your retention numbers where they need to be?
Well, you said the right thing, Master Kufur. Sparring is a critical component of Taekwondo, and I do think that we're actually doing our students a disservice if we don't teach them at least the basic elements or concepts of sparring. Of course, there's the basic movements, and there's pumse, and there's self-defense, and there's breaking techniques. But sparring is a critical component. So it's like before you learn how to run, you got to learn how to walk. And if I'm taking you out to a sushi restaurant, you've never had sushi before, I'm not going to go over the top at the beginning. I'm going to start off with some California rolls and some gyoza.
Edamame, yeah.
So the same thing with sparring. All of our beginner classes, we don't do contact sparring at all. Only at the intermediate level do they start some light contact, and then at advanced they do control contact, and then we have a specialized sparring program, Olympic style sparring, where they do full contact. So you see, everything is gradual. So we introduced 2020 armor right at the beginning. At the beginning, we let we let our students do the one game mode. Hey, how's your timing? Hey, how's your power? Hey, how's your speed? And then we let them do sparring, but it's all non-contact sparring. So you're allowed to do what we call 3 times kicking in defense. So they kick 3 times forward and back. And you just gradually introduce them into it. You make sure that the environment is safe, number one, and that number 2, it's supportive and it's energetic. Right. And so when you introduce it properly, it's an incredible way to add a great value and introduce sparring into your program, especially to those kind of kids or adults that you would see that never would want to do sparring.
Right.
When you introduce it gradually, so that it's fun and it's measured, and in a way that they believe that they can actually do it, you're going to have a lot of success with that.
Right. And so, a lot of, we're obviously doing this live webinar on our 2020 hour page. So I'm guessing probably about half of the folks here have 2020 hour already, which is why we're asking about these specific ways of how to implement these strategies into your program. And for those that don't have it yet, we've also covered a lot of other strategies on how to do retention and attracting new students. So on for those customers that do have the vest already, or actually even the ones that don't, a lot of the people, one of the first things they are kind of concerned about is, I just don't know how to implement it in the class without changing everything. I remember this is one of the things a question I posed to you is like, how do we deal with that? And you're like, it's easy. And so what did you say? What did you say again?
Yeah, it really is easy. Look, in a typical Taekwondo class, you're gonna line them up, you're gonna bow in, you're gonna do your warm up, you're gonna do some basic movements like sitting stance punches or punches and kicks on the spot. And then what do? We pull out the kicking paddles. And so maybe you get your students to hold the paddles for each other. Maybe you have enough staff or leadership team members or volunteers to hold them for them. So what we do is, instead of the kicking paddles, we just pull out the bobs. So let's say you have 5 kicks or 5 wave masters or 5 bobs. You wrap the 2020 armor around them, you set it on the game mode, and away you go. Right. It's literally painless. And you will see the way students' eyes light up when they do it. We're doing the speed challenge. We're doing the power challenge. We're doing the timing. Right. They just absolutely love it. Now, the key is, like anything great, you have to give it in small measures. You can center a whole class around it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But we make it a point of only limiting that to about 5 or 10 minutes per class, because there are other areas of Taekwondo that they need to learn. Right.
That's great. So that lowers the I guess fear some people have, is that they have to change everything. But
absolutely. Another thing that we do is, and this is really popular. Each of my classes, we have a lot of instructors on the floor. If we're short 1 or 2 instructors, we get our leadership team members to jump in, and we get them to put the targets on. So they put on the 2020 armor, and then they become the bob, so to speak, where kids get to kick them. And of course, they make it fun and dramatic, and they make all these sound effects. I mean, it's a riot. They love it.
Right. Great. And I am doing a time check because I want to get into the last part of creating new revenue streams, and then we will leave the last 15 minutes just purely for any questions. I know there are some questions that already came up that I haven't gotten to. Thank you for those people that have asked. And before we get into the creating new revenue streams, again, we do have a holiday special, the $525 price, which is $75 off. And there's, I think it ends. Michael, if you can send in the comments what time it ends today, I forget the exact time. And you definitely want to get this before the holiday season and start the new year with some very creative ways for attracting, retaining, and creating new revenue streams. So on that, creating new revenue streams, I think you run a tournament once a week. It feels like every time I'm talking to you, you're doing something regarding a tournament. You're very comfortable with them. You've done a lot of them. From in-house tournaments to the provincials in your province. You've helped organize the World Junior Championships at World Taekwondo level. And Michael tells me the sale ends at 12 a.m. Eastern time. Thank you, Michael. What are your secrets to making tournaments more successful?
Well, I do a lot of work for our BC Taekwondo Federation. Formerly, I did a lot for Taekwondo Canada, and now I do serve on the Games Committee for World Taekwondo. So I'm very involved with organizing, setting up tournaments. But I think our viewership is more interested in how we can host in-house tournaments.
Right. Yeah. And,
I've hosted a couple of big in-house tournaments. It's a learning curve for anyone. And my advice is to start really small. You don't need to go out and rent a big school gymnasium and look for sponsors. I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but you can always start small. Do it on a Saturday and use your own club from 2 to 5 or 2 to 6. In-house tournament, $20 using 2020 armor. We're gonna have events, the speed challenge, the power challenge. You get to spar one of the instructors, or maybe you get to spar with each other. And winners will get a free T-shirt, or winners will get a medal, or winners will get a ribbon. You're not necessarily doing it to make big profits right at the beginning. You're doing it more just to boost retention and create a buzz, and have your friends invite their friends and family and take videos. And you can use that as a marketing strategy. So what I did personally at my in-house tournaments, where I invited all our clubs together, we did rent a gymnasium, and we made it fancy and all that, is we had the 2020 armor put on bogs, and we had 2 divisions. We had the speed challenge and we had the power challenge, and that was very, very successful. It was very popular. So those are simple ways that you can get started doing in-house events, inter-school or in-house tournaments at your club, and making a little bit of profit while doing it.
Right. So again, I think the going back to some of the early themes that we talked about is just starting small. We don't have to think of doing an Olympics for our first in-house event, and just get used to it, get comfortable with it. And as you do, you'll learn more, and that's just the learning process. How many do you do a year now in your club?
We do 2 a year. We do 1 in February, 1 in June. And
do you do that for each club, or do you do inter-school?
Inter-school. Yeah.
Okay, because
we invite all our clubs together. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we pull out all the bells and whistles for that. But I have very good friends here in BC that do in-house tournaments inside their club, and their ROI is incredible because it costs them nothing. Literally, all they do is buy a couple of medals, and it's a great revenue generation stream for them. Right.
So this is the topic of Thrive, or creating new revenue streams for people listening in, and we talked about in-house tournaments and events, creating that. And so we reviewed not having to worry about necessarily maybe generating revenue from the first one, because there's still lots of value in terms of retention that we get from that. How do you reach the adult students and get them to practice at your school?
You know what? That's simple. It's exactly the same as the way we would recruit any child. You know, at the heart of it, I like to say that adults, Master Gafur, yourself, and I know I am, we're just recycled teenagers. We're young at heart.
I like that.
We need to have fun too. So when we have adults come in for our introductory class, we just focus on making sure they understand our class is about releasing stress, having fun. And in the intro class, we invite that prospective student to kick that 20-20 arm and say, hey, let's see how your timing is. Boom. Let's see how your power is. Boom. That was great. With practice, you'll be able to get this much and this much. You're actually really, really good. You make them believe in themselves, and you make it so that they want to come back. They're inspired by the training, and they see the benefit that can be had from the use of 20-20 armor and joining your class. So there's nothing different that you do. You simply invite them in for that introductory class that like you would for your child, and then you would get them signed up into your adults program.
Yeah, it's funny because we forget as adults, we look for the same things as kids do. Affirmation, reaffirmation. Someone, like, as adults, we get it less than some kids do, right? Like, you're doing a good job, right? The fact that another adult tells you that, that's actually quite powerful. And so we shouldn't forget that, and we shouldn't think that we're belittling them by saying that. I think that might be a common misconception as well.
Master Gafur, I'm a 7th Dan Taekwondo master, and I remember my first early days in jiu-jitsu. In jiu-jitsu, they just give you this dirty white piece of tape around your belt, and they call it a promotion. It's a stripe. And I remember when I was a white belt and I got my first white stripe. That's the equivalent of your 5 or 6-year-old in your Taekwondo class getting that yellow piece of tape around their belt. You can ask my wife how proud I was of myself. So, as adults, obviously our priorities change, and because we have bigger responsibilities. And that's why I think it's even more important for adults to get that element of fun and that feeling of progress.
Right.
Wow, I can still do something.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So we have 5 more minutes, and then we'll devote the last 15 minutes to pure questions. That could be about anything. Looking into the year 2020, what would you suggest in terms of strategies and preparing for Q1, the first quarter? So January, February, March.
What I would do is, in the corporate world, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 is divided into 3 months. I would invite all club owners to get out a piece of paper. I love just writing things down, and just write down Q1, that's winter. Q2 is spring, which is April, May, June. Q3 is a little bit different. It's July and August, which is summer. And then Q4, even though it's 4 months, but for Taekwondo, it's September, October, November, December. So you need to create 4 quadrants. And then you need to ask yourself, what are you going to do for your January promo? For us, we do an adult promo where it's free uniform, free month of training, everything included for $99. So, that's a big savings for us. For February, we do what's called a Valentine's special. And then for March, depending if it's April, sometimes April's in March, normally we do a St. Patrick's Day special. So, and again, you can come up with it, whatever promo you want. I think the main point here is that you actually have a strategy or some sort of promotion while tracking your stats to see what's working for you, what's not working for you, instead of just sitting back and just hoping people walk in. And not only that, once you do create a strategy, let's say you decide, you know what, we're going to attack the adult market for January. So we're doing a January special. Don't think that printing out a little flyer and putting up in your front walk-in area is going to do the trick. You have to, in sales, we always talk about follow up, follow up, follow up. You need to post that on all your social media avenues. You need to promote that with in-house flyers. You need to put it up on your TV screen if you have that at your club. You need to be emailing that to all of your current students. You need to get the word out there and set a goal for yourself. Listen, we're doing this January promo. Our goal is to get 10 new signups because of it. So I think that's the important thing that as club owners we do. We break it up into those 4 quadrants. Q1, all the way to Q4, and we need to have some sort of promo or special every single month.
So
it doesn't have to be substantial.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a substantial savings, but it's a marketing effort just to attract new students. By the way, I love what you said about ART. Attract, retain, and thrive. In the martial arts industry, we like to say that we have to be highly focused on two things, and that's creating students and retaining students. But I like the art better. I like the thrive aspect of that.
Yeah, the creating new revenue streams, it's traditionally not thought of because, it's a kind of the focus on attraction and training. But when we built the vest and we saw what our customers were doing in terms of, they have their in-house tournaments and they create a gaming station, literally like an arcade, and you charge $20 to have all access to play all the games. And that's a new revenue stream you couldn't do before, or 2020 Tuesdays or 2020 Thursdays where you have the vest exclusively and generating new revenue stream. So I think that gets us to think creatively and really look at different opportunities. And going back, the strategies we had for Q1, one of the things that we might not realize as martial artists, and that definitely the business world knows intimately, is someone needs to hear something 7 to 14 times before they make a decision. 7 to 14 times, right? So your little promo that you had about Valentine's Day, it's not that 8.5 little piece of paper. They might see that once, right? Then the email, they'll see it again, right? And then, so like you said, the 7 to 14 times is that's just the way human nature is. So you have to remember that, and don't think that you're inundating them or over communicating, because some of the times they don't even see it or receive it. And we have to remember that as martial artists, just because we send something doesn't mean they automatically see it. Yeah. So we are in our last 15 minutes. So we'll devote these last 15 minutes to only your questions. I know some have already come in. I will ask those ones first and wait for other ones to come in as well. One of the earlier ones was about the positions in your school. What are they? How many instructors, managers, receptionists do you have? And so that everyone obviously is paid well. I know one of the things that you do that's I guess typically maybe not done or thought of is you treat your employees like typical employees from Fortune 500 companies. They have benefits. They get no, I mean, like, we just don't. They get benefits. They get market salary, all these sort of things. So can you talk a little bit about that structure for some of your schools and yeah.
Each of my locations, I want to make sure that we have a really well-structured team in place. From there, we can really focus on the systems that work for us in order for the school to thrive. So at all of my locations, I have a full-time program director. That program director is responsible for introducing all new students to our academy, handling tuition payments, answering any student concerns or questions, and working hand in hand with the head instructor, or in my case, they do weekly meetings with me. I also have a head instructor for each of my locations. So the head instructor is the top instructor that makes sure that students are testing regularly. They're sending me a list of C students every week so that they can make sure that they're not going to drop out. And then I also have what's called senior instructors. They're kind of the number 2 and number 3 instructors, so to speak, that help the head instructor. And the next level from there is what we call assistant instructor. Assistant instructor is usually part-time. And then for our brand new instructors, we call them junior instructors. So each of my locations will typically have one program director, one head instructor, 1 to 2 senior instructors, 1 assistant instructor, and 2 to 3 junior instructors. And of course, the most important program in every club is our leadership team, because it's from our leadership team that I hire my junior instructors, who then become assistant instructors and then become senior instructors. and then head instructors, and then finally from there, you know, they can become a partner and open up a club with me, so that they can have their own very own club. Sorry, my screen just went blank. Can you still see me there?
Can still see a beautiful face, sir.
Great.
Thank you for that question. That was from Master Kev Chang. We had somebody ask. We did promise that we would talk about the headgear in this seminar. So while we wait for another question to come in, there is a couple others, but you can ask some more questions anyways. Master Powell's asking about the headgear. So we did say in the communications that we talked about the headgear. So I'll talk a little bit about that. So the headgear will come out in Q2 next year, and it will work just like the vest, in that you just tap to sync up. Very easy. It'll work with any vest that you have today. There will be a light on the forehead that will tell you what color you are, and also work with all the 10 different game modes. So for example, if you're playing the reaction game or the reflex game, instead of only hitting to the body, the head will flash. You can hit to the head. It'll have the same sensor technology as the vest, and it will look like nothing you've ever seen before. And
when is that coming out?
It'll be coming out in the second quarter of next year.
Good.
And I don't want to say it's a Cybertruck of the headgears. I don't know if you've seen the Tesla Cybertruck. It looks very different than most pickup trucks. It's not that crazy. It doesn't have those sharp lines, but it's definitely a game changer and something we're really excited about. It's rechargeable battery, and yeah. So that's a preview of the headgear. Master Chris Lee was asking, how often do you meet with your training for your staff, sir?
Once a week. So every Monday, I get all of my head instructors, all my senior instructors, and my assistant instructors, and I train them for an hour. Basically, that every Monday is that training session is just to make sure that they're getting a good workout, but also I'm covering what they're supposed to be doing for that week. So if it's a test prep week, if it's a self-defense week, a sparring week, a pattern week, what have you, or I just go over different methodologies and safe stretching and things like that. After we do our instructor training, we usually go for lunch just to build up the team atmosphere. And then we do our staff meeting, and our staff meeting is all of our head and senior instructors and all of our program directors. And that's where we review the key priorities for the week. Of course, we review our stats from the previous week, you know, how many inquiries we had, how many intros we have booked for this week, how many new students, more importantly, how many dropouts. And, you know, one of the things that I didn't expand on, but I think is probably the most important number every club owner needs to track is their net growth, or their net new, which is the difference between your enrollments per month and your dropouts per month. So we do that every Monday. And then every Wednesday, I have my head instructors send me a weekly report, just telling me how the week is going, if they have any questions, any student concerns, things like that. And again, it's important that you're consistent with it. You know, I travel quite extensively, but I always make sure I'm back in Vancouver on Mondays. If there are Mondays that I'm not here, I create the lesson plan, I create the staff meeting agenda, and I delegate that to my head instructors and my program directors. And I say, this is what I want you guys to train in. And these are the things that I want you to cover during your staff meeting, and then report back to me on Wednesday with any questions or concerns.
Great. Thank you for that. And one of the things I forgot to mention also is if for the headgear, if you buy 6 vests today, you get one for free, which is pretty
I saw that.
Cool. Yeah. So we'll definitely capitalize on that. Another, speaking of headgear and head contact, which group do you start to do head contact with in sparring? Is one of the questions.
We don't do any full contact sparring at any of our academies unless they join our sparring team. So as I alluded to earlier, beginners simply do non-contact sparring. Intermediates do what we call light contact sparring, and then our advanced students do controlled sparring, where it's just a little bit more contact, but still no head contact. If they want to learn the full contact Olympic style sparring, then they have to sign up for Olympic style sparring class, which we do either on a Friday or a Saturday, depending on our location. Yeah.
Right. One of the questions came in with how the headgear will work with game one, which is the energy scoring. So the scores will be synced. So whatever you hit to the head will take off the energy from your entire life bar. And yeah, if you just hit to the head, you could win, or if you just hit to the body, you could also just win. And so the head bar, the health bars will be in sync. To answer that question. One of the questions that was asked earlier was about salaries. I know that obviously we don't want to talk about specifics in that, but I guess, and it'll be different for each region and each club and performance. What can you say about gross salaries and for staff, and what would be, I guess, market, and what would you think is fair?
So now we're talking about money. The truth of the matter is your full-time staff need to feel appreciated, and at the end of the day, they need to have enough money to live the certain lifestyle that they want to live. So, I kind of pride myself that I do pay my instructors well. My head instructors, as you said, Ali, they get benefits. I offer RSP incentives to them. They also get housing. So I need to make sure that they're not feeling any negative stress for financial reasons. So, you need to ask yourself, is your head instructor working two jobs? Do they have a full-time day job and then they're coming at night and doing this? Because if they are, chances are they're probably going to be really tired. They're going to be stretched to the limit. You're setting them up for burnout. So whenever possible, if you do have a full-time instructor helping you, I'm not saying you need to pay them $100,000 a year, but you want to make sure that they are making enough to pay their rent or their mortgage, and also setting aside a little bit of savings, so they're setting up for their future. But also, I think it's important for club owners to let their instructors know, listen, as the club grows, your salary is going to grow. Excellent work deserves excellent rewards. And together, you and I, let's grow this school so that we can help benefit our community in a bigger way. And in return, everybody wins. I'm going to make sure I take care of you. I'll give you an extra week off. I'll give you that benefits or whatever it is. We were talking about retention. Your students need to feel progress, but your staff, they need to feel that recognition and value. So you, as the club owner, you've got to make sure that you're taking excellent care of your staff.
Right. Yeah, and I think we tend to forget that. We might take a little bit of advantage of that. In terms of going back to a question of retention, one question was asked by Mehdi, the best methods of keeping teenagers, because at the age they maybe, especially when they go to university or maybe even high school, they decide to quit. Strategies around that?
Yeah, the whole martial arts industry struggles with that. Every single club. The majority of our students are going to be 4 to 12. And then we struggle with the teenagers, which is why a lot of clubs have what's called the teens and adults class. They just throw the teenagers in with the adults. So that's a common challenge that every single martial art club is going to have. Having said that, what I've done at my academies, and it has given us tremendous success, is that we've invited many of our teenagers that are above blue belt into our leadership program. So the moment they hit grade 8, these days you have 13-year-olds that are almost 6 feet tall. It's incredible. But the moment they hit grade 8 and they become a certain level, it doesn't have to be blue belt. That's just the way it is at our academy. You might want to invite them in at green belt or orange belt. As long as they have a willingness to learn and they want to volunteer and learn how to become Taekwondo leaders, pull them aside and say, hey, Jonathan, I have a very specialized program. It's called the leadership program. where I teach specific skills on how to become a leader, not just in Taekwondo, but in all areas of your life. It requires a 1 hour practicum. And in return, you also get to volunteer 1 hour of your time during the week to help with our children's program. So I'm just thinking that you would be a wonderful candidate because you bring a lot of these great attributes to the table. Let me know what you think, and let's set up a time next week so we can talk a little bit more about it. And now our leadership program is on Friday nights. It's incredibly popular with all of our teenagers, and the parents love it because now, you know, their kids who are teenagers are not out late on a Friday night. They're coming to Taekwondo for an hour, and we go over how to be a Taekwondo leader. And again, from there is how I hire my junior instructors. So that's a strategy you might want to implement. It doesn't have to be your leadership program. It could be a team's leadership program. It could be some sort of SWAT team, like a super winning attitude team. The point is that when you have teenagers, just let them know that there's other opportunities available in your program to get more involved with your club. It's not just coming to the regular training.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we have just the 1 minute left. I know we didn't get to all the questions. Maybe if you guys can leave them in the comments, and what we can do is we can ask Master Cook afterwards to maybe when he has some time to respond to them, and then we can send it out in an email. And maybe what we can do is we can summarize some of these questions that you guys have asked, put it together as a little digest, and send that out to everybody maybe who couldn't make it. So feel free to keep on asking your questions. And so with the last few seconds, I wanted to just remind everybody also about the special that we have for $525 per vest as opposed to the $600. And if you buy 6 vests, you get a free headgear, which is really, really cool. And will be a game changer again. And I guess Master Cook, thank you again for your time. Any last words for our group before we end this live webinar?
No, you know, I want to thank you, Master Gafour, for your vision for Taekwondo and for 2020. And I want to personally thank you for all the great things that it's brought to my academies. You know, it's really definitely boosted our retention. And it's helped with our enrollment process. For all the unanswered questions, yes, Master Gafour, if you could just maybe email me all those questions, I would be more than happy to answer all of them as best as I can. And then I'll just send it back to you, and you can post those or send it back to whoever asked those questions, and we can go from there.
Yeah, we'll definitely make it public because then everyone else can get the benefit from your wise wisdom. Thank you so much, sir, for your time.
My pleasure.
Yeah, you know, your knowledge is so valuable, and thank you everyone for the questions and for your time. Master Suh says you are the best. I think it's a little biased. I think you guys are close friends. but he's absolutely the best. Thank you everyone. Thank you, Master Cook, and have a great day. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and enjoy this time with your family, close ones, and loved ones.
Thank you. Merry Christmas, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.